The one thing that we're going to do a little bit different today is we are going to zoom in on sense statements and review some sense statements from the IA and making sure that we are prepared to get the sense statement point on the DBQ when we take the IA exam officially next month, because we are now in April. But first, we're going to start with the do now. Ignore the directions. I apologize for those being outdated. Don't use your homework because you have no homework. But break down the main inquiry that we're going to be using today into these following questions. Utilizing your lecture notes and your homework notes, to what extent did Vietnam heighten tensions politically and then socially and then economically? You're going to tell me how those things were affected during Vietnam, and we'll come back from that. You guys have 5 minutes to complete the do now. You should be restricted to that screen. Chat me if you have any questions. 5 minutes, go ahead and get started. I have 4 of us in the Desmos and I should have 6. Yep. Again, I only have 4 of us in the Desmos and I should have 8. Please make sure you are logging into Desmos so you can participate in today's activity. Today's activity is being graded, so please make sure you are logging in. Two more minutes to finish on the do now. Again, you're breaking down today's prompt into some main questions. 30 seconds to finish up, and then we will keep moving. Awesome. We will go ahead and keep moving so that way we can get through today's lesson. So the first thing that I want us to review before we go into today's actual content lesson on the Vietnam War is just a bit of a reminder on what we are going to be doing in the AP exam next month, specifically in regards to the DBQ rubric. I know I went over the fact that it's now going to be the 7-point rubric instead of the 10-point rubric that you are graded on for AP World, but I wanted to make sure I spotlighted it again one more time so that way you guys can see again the way that you're going to be graded, the way that you were graded in Q3 on your IA and what you'll be graded on in May on your AP exam. The thesis and the context point are still the same. But for evidence, you need to get 6 of the 7 documents into your essay and use those documents to support your exam to get both, support your argument to get both points. You also only need 1 piece of outside evidence in your essay to get the 1 outside evidence point. And specifically looking at the since statement, you need at least 3 documents to explain how or why that source's point of view, purpose, historical situation, or audience is relevant to the argument. This is different than what we did, what you had in the 2020 rubric. This full 7-point rubric is also attached to today's assignment. So if you want to look at it more closely yourself, you can also see it there. But today we are going to specifically look at since statements. And if you look at the next slide that I just sent you to, you are going to see the 2020 rubric on the left and the rubric that you are being graded on the right. So again, the 2020 rubric is on the left. That's what you used to be graded on. And the actual rubric you'll be graded on the right-hand side. Go ahead and take 2 minutes to review these rubrics and in the Zoom chat. What are the differences between these rubrics? So again, in the Zoom chat in 2 minutes, what are the differences between these 2 rubrics? Go ahead and dive in to those rubric rows. One more minute. Again, make sure you are sharing in the Zoom chat. What do you notice is the difference between these 2 rubrics? Awesome. Thank you, Kayla, for starting us off. "15 more seconds to send those observations into the Zoom chat. As a reminder, today's lesson is being graded, so make sure you are fully invested in what we're going over. You will be graded on it at the end of the day. Take the last 10 seconds to review. Awesome. Thank you, Shakeem, and for everybody else that shared out. So there are two main differences between these two sense statements, these 2 points for row D of the rubric. You used to only need to put one sense statement for 1 point, and then you could get an additional point for 2. Now you need to have 3 sense statements, and it is only 1 out of 7 points. And because you need 3 sense statements, that means that it's a harder point to get, but it is also very, very doable. Now, looking at the rubric on the right, how do we get the sense statement point? Take 1 minute in the chat. How do we get that sense statement point? Also, as a reminder, your cameras should be on. I know some of you guys can have your cameras off, including those that are here, but please make sure, unless that's been cleared, that you have your camera on. Awesome. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Leah. Yes, there are two things that you need to do to get the sense statement point. You need to do this for 3 documents. You need to identify the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, or audience. So one of those 4. And then the most important thing is you need to say why that corner is relevant to your argument. So it's not just enough to say an author's point of view. You need to tell me and the readers why that point of view is important for your argument. When I was grading our quarter 3 IAs, I noticed and saw that only 2 students got the sense statement point for this IA. However, in quarter 1, 12 of you got at least 1 point for the sense statement. So what that tells me is that you guys know how to write a sense statement. Our issue is that we're just not writing enough because we have to have 3 to get that point. So today we're going to be zooming in on sense statements as we go through today's document. But before we do that, I want to show you an exemplar sense statement from one of your peers in the Desmos. In Desmos, you're going to have 90 seconds. You're going to read this sense statement and tell me, what did the student do to successfully earn credit towards a sense statement point? 90 seconds in Desmos. Go ahead and get started. Thirty more seconds to reflect on why that is a successful sense statement. Awesome. That is time. Thank you guys for taking the time to look at an exemplar SIN statement. Shout out to Jalasia for having such a great set of SIN statements in her essay. Her and Shakim are the two that got the point for this part of the rubric. And I know everybody in this call can too, because you guys have been practicing for SIN statements for a very long time. So we just need to get dust off the rust on our SIN statement skills and make sure that we are doing 3. And I think that Ashley, in her reflection on what Jalasia did successful, is best summed up as Ashley says that Jalasia shows the how and the why. So she shows how this corner is important and why that corner is important. So we are going to go ahead and get started on today's actual document. Believe it or not, I know this is a shock. You guys are going to be doing SIN statements on today's documents. And today we're going to be looking at to what extent did the Vietnam War heighten social, political, and economic tension in the United States from 1964 to 1975. In today's documents, pretty simple. You're going to read the document, identify if the document is talking about social, political, or economic. You just need to click a checkbox. And then you're going to give me POV/historical context corner annotations, since those are usually the easiest to work with for SIN statements. And then you're going to write a SIN statement for these documents. So I am going to open up all those documents. So you should have access to all of them now. You are going to have 15 minutes to read all 5 documents and include these annotations. Chat me if you have any questions or concerns, and we can go ahead and get started. 15 minutes. Chat me if you need anything. At the bottom of the document is where you'll see the opportunity to check social, economic, or political tension. We have about 11 and a half minutes. You should be finishing on document 1 and heading to document 2. We're going to stick with 15 minutes because that is the time that you will have for the AP exam. It's okay if you get stuck, just keep yourself moving. That's going to be the strategy that you have for the AP exam is if you're stuck, you let it go and you move on, and then you come back to it later if you have time. You have 9 minutes. You should be finishing up document 2 in the next minute. So what is this? Is it just like diagram? So remember, music is super important. Why do you think this guy would write a song about his experience with Vietnam? Look at this line. To have your boy come home in a box. What do you think that means? Yes. So would you say this is a positive thing about the war, or would you say it's negative? Make sure you put that in like a POV annotation. And then try again the document 2. I'm seeing some really awesome sense statements for document 2, considering who Martin Luther King Jr. is. Great job. Just make sure you're using your time effectively. You have 6.5 minutes left. We have 5 minutes and 20 seconds left. I'm going to pause very quickly because I realize we might not have this content knowledge right in our back pocket. Robert F. Kennedy, the author of document 3, is the brother of JFK. So he's John F. Kennedy's brother. And in 1968, he was running for president. So he was running for the Democratic nomination for president. So looking at this document that's about Vietnam, written in 1968, just before he was assassinated, when he's running for the Democratic presidency, that is going to influence why he is writing this document the way that he is. Make sure utilizing that content knowledge, use that to help with the SINT statement. Shout out to everybody who is revising their POV in historical context corners on document 3. You still have 5.5 minutes. Go ahead and get back to it. You have 3 minutes left. Finish where you're at on document 3 and transition to document 4 as soon as you can. I want to make sure we get exposure to document 4 before we jump into discourse. We have 30 seconds left, but I'm going to give us an additional minute to get through document 4 strategically. Looking at document 4, I want to make sure we're zooming in on the last line where he says, while perhaps 4 out of 5 of my friends from Harvard were being deferred, just the opposite was happening to the Chelsea boys. We know that deferment meant that if you went to college, you could say, I'm in college, I don't need to go to the military. I don't need to be drafted. That's what deferment is. And we know that Harvard is a very wealthy school. So using that information, make sure we're utilizing that in our, does this speak to social, economic, or political tensions? Remember, you can click more than one and use that information in your sense statement. Looking at that last line, 1 more minute. Think about it in terms of historical context. Good job, Caleb. I'm going to give us 15 more seconds to finish annotating. Awesome. And I'm going to restrict us to slide 12. You don't need to look for evidence quite yet. First, I just want you to add in that box. Just pick one. To what extent did Vietnam War heighten social, political, or economic tensions? Choose one. Which do you think is the most important? Which do you think is being heightened the most? Take 30 seconds in Desmos. Tell me, social, political, or economic? Awesome. I see some political. I see some social. Great. Take 30 seconds, find a piece of evidence, and then we will come together for discourse. Make sure you find that piece of evidence in case I call on you. Can I hear from, let's see, can I hear from Samaj, and then Kamaya, and then Jalasia?
I said there was not like an actual answer to it, only because like all these needed fixing and all of them needed changes during the 60s.
And Kamaya, can you jump in?
I said it was heightening social tension. In a lot
Do you
of
have a
the
piece of evidence? Sorry.
in a lot of the documents, it just like increases the social issues. Document 4, when it says, while perhaps 4 out of 5 of my friends from Harvard were being deferred. It shows that socially and economically, the issues increased because men were needed to be drafted during the war, but due to the economic advantage of having a
Great. And Jaleisha, can you jump in?
I agree with Kamaya that it heightened social tensions, and I used evidence from document 2 where Martin Luther King says we are we were taking the black young men who had been crippled by our society and sending them 8,000 miles away to guarantee liberties in Southeast Asia, which they had not found in Southwest Georgia or East Harlem.
Mhm. Jaleisha, why is this document being written by Martin Luther King important?
Um, you want me to just read my sis statement?
That would be beautiful. Thank you.
Um, it says, since this document is written by Martin Luther King, a known civil rights activist, it is understood that he would advocate for the deaths of black men and make it known that they still did not have equality back home while they were fighting in this war for America.
Awesome. Thank you, Jaleisha, for sharing your sense statement. Everybody, I see a lot of great sense statements in these documents. Unfortunately, we are just cut for time. So I'm going to open up our exit ticket. Today's exit ticket is basically a body paragraph of an essay where you're going to have your thesis, the answer to the question, which is what existing tension in American society was most heightened by the Vietnam War. So you have to choose between social, political, or economic. You're going to support that information with at least 2 documents, and one of those documents you need to include a sense statement for. So it's basically a body paragraph of a DBQ. Each of these things is worth 25%, so 25% for thesis, 50% for the 2 pieces of evidence, and then 25% for the sense statement. Make sure you get every single piece. That is open. Once I see a full paragraph in your exit ticket slide and I see a submission on Google Classroom, you'll be good to go. Remember, you do have that next set of chapter key terms homework due the Monday we come back from break. And I think that's the last of my big announcements. I'll have grades for this quarter 2 classwork grades put into the grade book by late this evening. So you guys will have a start to your quarter 4 grades by the end of today.